He refused to approve the emergency treatment, then terminated the hospital call himself. So why was he terrified when I mentioned the insurance cancellation?
Dad, they said if I don't get the procedure tonight, my kidneys could shut down. My father didn't even look up from the billing desk before saying, then they can discharge you. I was standing in the emergency room at 2 a.m, barely able to stay upright while a nurse stared at him like she couldn't believe what she'd heard. My name's Maureen, I'm 22, and my dad controlled every dollar in our family after my mom died. The doctor had already explained the treatment was urgent, but my father kept arguing about cost, asking if there was a cheaper alternative, like we were negotiating a car repair instead of my life. Then the nurse quietly pulled him aside and whispered, "Sir, if payment isn't authorized now, we legally can't hold the operating room." That's when my father said something that made my stomach drop. He leaned closer to her and muttered, "If she gets this treatment tonight, everything else falls apart." And right as I realized he was hiding something, his phone rang, and the color drained from his face. He turned away fast and answered the call in a low voice, but the emergency room was so quiet at that hour I could still hear pieces of it. "No, not tonight," he hissed. "I told you I'm handling it." A pause. Then his jaw tightened. "You freeze anything before morning and we all go down." The nurse looked from him to me, confused, while I pressed one hand against my side, trying not to collapse. Every few minutes, another sharp pulse of pain shot through my lower back, hard enough to blur my vision. I could barely focus, but one thing suddenly felt terrifyingly clear. My dad wasn't refusing treatment because we couldn't afford it. He was refusing because something else mattered more to him. He ended the call and forced a smile that looked completely fake. "Maureen, let's go home. We'll get another opinion in the morning." "The doctor said waiting could make it permanent," I said. "I said we're leaving." That was my father, Richard. In public, everybody loved him. He gave speeches at church about responsibility and family. He owned a financial consulting company downtown. People shook his hand like he was some kind of genius. But at home, everything worked one way, his way. And right then, standing under those fluorescent hospital lights, I realized he wasn't scared for me at all. He was scared of something else happening before sunrise. The doctor came back with a clipboard, his expression tense. "Mr. Bennett, if your daughter leaves against medical advice, we need signatures acknowledging the risk." My father snatched the clipboard so fast the papers bent in his hand. "Fine." "Dad," my voice cracked, "why are you doing this?" For half a second, something flashed across his face. Not guilt, panic. Then he leaned close enough for only me to hear him. "You have no idea how close this family is to losing everything." Before I could respond, he grabbed my overnight bag and started toward the exit. And that's when I noticed two things at once. The first was that his hands were shaking. The second was the notification lighting up his phone screen again. Final notice before asset seizure. By the time we got home, I could barely walk from the driveway to the front door. My father didn't help me once. He unlocked the house, walked straight inside, and immediately disappeared into his office while I stood in the hallway trying to breathe through the pain. A few seconds later, I heard drawers slamming and papers rustling behind the locked door. Not concern, not fear for me, panic. I lowered myself onto the couch carefully, clutching my side, when my younger brother Ethan came downstairs rubbing sleep from his eyes. The second he saw me, his expression changed. "Wait, you're back already? I thought they were admitting you." I looked toward Dad's office. He refused the treatment. Ethan froze. "What?" Before I could answer, Dad's office door opened. Richard stepped out, adjusting his tie like this was just another normal night. "Your sister's being dramatic. The doctors are pushing unnecessary procedures because insurance companies pay for them." "That's not what they said," I shot back. His eyes locked onto mine instantly, cold, warning me not to challenge him. For years, that look worked on everyone in this house, especially after Mom died. Back then, Dad took over every account, every bill, every decision. He always said handling finances was too stressful for us. I never questioned it because there was never supposed to be a reason to. Until tonight. Ethan shifted nervously. Dad, if it's serious, maybe we should just... Go to bed, Dad snapped. Silence slammed across the room. Ethan looked down immediately, but not before I caught something in his expression. Fear. Not confusion. Not surprise. Ethan looked down immediately, but not before I caught something in his expression. Fear. Not confusion, not surprise. Fear like he already knew something was wrong. Then my father turned toward me slowly and said, "And stop asking questions you're not prepared to hear the answers to." I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the doctor's voice repeating the same sentence over and over. Treatment within 24 hours gives you the best chance of avoiding permanent damage. By 6 in the morning, the pain was worse. I dragged myself into the kitchen and found Dad already dressed for work, drinking coffee like nothing had happened. His phone sat beside him, screen down, but I noticed he kept checking it every few seconds. "Call the hospital," I said. "I'm going back." He didn't even look up. "No." My hands started shaking. "You don't get to decide that." That finally made him raise his eyes. And the expression on his face scared me more than the pain. "You think I'm the villain because I'm trying to stop this family from collapsing?" he said quietly. "You have no idea what's happening." "Then tell me." Instead, he stood and walked toward me slowly. "Sign the delay forms. We'll schedule another consultation next week." "Next week?" I stared at him. "They said I could lose kidney function." And I said sign the forms. For the first time in my life, I stepped back from him instead of obeying. "No." The silence between us turned dangerous instantly. His jaw tightened. "If you bankrupt this family over one procedure, don't expect to come back here afterward." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because he threatened me, because he meant it. A few minutes later, while Dad was upstairs, I grabbed the house phone and called the hospital billing department myself. I gave them my information, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman on the line went quiet for a second. Then she said, "Ma'am, your insurance policy was terminated 3 months ago." My stomach dropped. "What? That's impossible." "I'm sorry, but the cancellation came directly from the policyholder." The line suddenly disconnected. I turned around slowly. My father was standing in the kitchen doorway, holding the unplugged phone cord in his hand.
He cancelled the insurance himself. So why is he terrified that I found out instead of just admitting that we are broke?
And this time, he wasn't even pretending to look calm. "You went behind my back?" he said. His voice was low and controlled, which somehow felt worse than yelling. I stared at the unplugged cord dangling from his hand. "You canceled our insurance." Dad walked into the kitchen slowly, eyes locked on me. "You don't understand the situation." "Then explain it." "I'm trying to protect this family. By letting me get sicker?" For a second, neither of us moved. Then Ethan appeared near the hallway, clearly hearing everything. He looked between us nervously before saying, "Dad, just tell her the truth." Dad's head snapped toward him. "Stay out of this." That answer told me everything. I looked at Ethan. What truth? He hesitated too long, and that was enough. I pushed past Dad and hurried toward his office despite the pain stabbing through my side. Behind me, I heard him curse and follow fast. "Maureen, stop!" I got to the desk first. His laptop was open. The screen showed pages of financial documents, overdue notices, and emails marked urgent. My pulse started pounding harder as I scrolled. Past due balances, loan defaults, legal warnings. Then I saw the company account summaries, almost empty. "No," I whispered. Dad reached for the laptop, but I jerked it away. Another document opened automatically. Asset freeze pending, effective 9 a.m. Below it was a list of properties, vehicles, and business accounts tied to my father's name, including our house. Ethan stepped into the doorway behind us, pale. "I told you this would happen." Dad rounded on him furiously. "You keep your mouth shut." But Ethan finally snapped. "For weeks you've been hiding calls from lawyers. You sold Mom's investment accounts. You told everybody the business was fine when it wasn't." I looked back at the screen in disbelief. Then another email caught my attention. From Denise Harper. Subject line, "Final notice before reporting fraudulent transfers." My father lunged forward and slammed the laptop shut. "You have no idea what you're looking at," he said. But now I finally did. And suddenly I understood exactly why my treatment mattered more to him than my life. My father's company had been collapsing for almost 2 years. I learned the full truth later, mostly from investigators, lawyers, and one exhausted woman named Denise Harper, who'd spent months trying to stop him before everything exploded. Dad had made terrible investment decisions through his consulting firm. Instead of admitting the losses, he started moving money around to hide them. First business funds, then personal accounts, then retirement investments that belonged to clients who trusted him. When that stopped covering the damage, he got desperate. He refinanced our house without telling us. He borrowed against future assets that didn't even exist anymore. And 3 months earlier, he canceled our health insurance because he needed the premium money to delay default notices and keep regulators from looking too closely at his accounts. My treatment wasn't the problem. The timing was. The hospital bill would have exposed that he no longer had accessible funds. Once people started asking questions, the entire illusion holding his life together would collapse before he could move the remaining money. That was what he meant in the emergency room. If she gets this treatment tonight, everything else falls apart. And by morning, it did. About an hour after I discovered the emails, the pain became unbearable. I collapsed beside the couch so hard Ethan screamed for help. Dad kept saying I was overreacting, but Ethan ignored him and called 911 anyway. I still remember Dad trying to stop the paramedics from taking me. "Wait until tomorrow," he kept insisting. "We can transfer her somewhere cheaper." One of the paramedics looked at him like he was insane. Then everything spiraled at once. While they loaded me into the ambulance, 2 police vehicles pulled into the driveway behind us. Dad froze. A detective stepped out holding a folder thick with documents. "Richard Bennett?" he called. My father didn't answer. The detective looked toward the officers beside him. "Secure the property." Neighbors started coming outside immediately, watching from their lawns while officers walked up our driveway. Dad looked around like he couldn't understand how his perfectly controlled world was suddenly cracking open in public. Then I heard the detective say the sentence that wiped the color from his face completely. "By 9 a.m., every account and asset under your name will be frozen pending investigation." And they were. I woke up after surgery later that afternoon with tubes in my arm and Ethan asleep in a chair beside my bed. The procedure had worked. The doctor said we'd caught the damage just in time. Ethan handed me his phone silently. Every headline on the screen had Dad's name in it. Local financial advisor under fraud investigation. Assets frozen after alleged illegal transfers. Clients come forward with accusations. His office downtown was raided before sunrise. Bank accounts frozen, cars seized, business records taken by investigators. Church leadership removed him from every public position within hours. People who once praised him suddenly claimed they'd always suspected something. Denise visited me 2 days later. She explained she'd been Dad's business partner until she discovered forged signatures connected to hidden transfers. She warned him repeatedly to come clean before authorities got involved. Instead, he kept digging deeper. When she learned he denied my emergency treatment to buy himself more time, she reported everything immediately. That single report triggered the overnight seizure orders already waiting to activate the next morning. Dad lost control of everything in less than 12 hours. His business, his reputation, his money, his house. Eventually, criminal investigations followed, along with lawsuits from former clients. Ethan moved in temporarily with relatives while everything tied to the house went through legal review. And Dad? A week after I got discharged, he sent me a long message trying to explain himself. He said he was under pressure. He said he was trying to save the family. He said he never meant for things to go this far. I read it once while sitting outside the hospital during a follow-up appointment. Then I deleted it, because the truth was simple. When my life depended on him choosing between his daughter and his money, he chose the money. And in the end, he lost both.
You're fired, Helena. Security will escort you out.
What scares me now isn't what my father did, is how many people can actually hide financial collapses under control, authority, and family loyalty before anyone around them finally realizes what is really happening.